Keith Lee's been back on TV for 2 weeks, but it does not look like it's going to plan. And he looks like he's got something to get off his chest and tell fans very, very soon. We're going to have a talk about what that could be in just a second, so stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra, and I'm just going to play this. Mex is back! Mex is back!
I need a little never give up.
That was the Paul Heyman version, of course, from SmackDown on Friday. Yo, that was jokes, bro. Oh my word, that was amazing. But yo, yes, Mex is back. We're here, we're back again. Mate, you know what? You can give me your update because he was out injured, yeah. He was on the inactive list and he's made his return. So before Keith Lee tells us what's been going on, I'm gonna get Mex to tell us what's been going on, what has been going on, bro.
I mean, midway through June, I took my son to the seaside. I was bit by something in the water, had medication for it at the time, thought I was fine. No, the infection decided to rear its ugly head through the next coming weeks till last week where I was hospitalized. So, it had made its way through my body, through my skin, into my bloodstream. So it all got a bit serious, escalated really quickly. I was saying to my missus, no, not going to hospital, blah, 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 until the point where she was nearly in tears. She was like, you need to go. You can't see how you look. You need to go. Like,
right.
Just decided to obey my missus for once in my life.
Yeah.
And
sometimes,
the doctor said it's a good thing you did because otherwise you would have come in an ambulance like an hour later. That's how close it was. So, yeah, feeling good, feeling strong. I've got a checkup appointment tomorrow. So nice. Hopefully that's all good news. But back to doing what we do best.
And let us do it. So as Mex said at the top of the show, of course, in the intro, Keith Lee has made his return. He came back last week on Raw to answer Bobby Lashley's open challenge for the WWE Championship. Of course, he came out to everyone's surprise. It's been about 6 months since he's been out. Last time we saw him was mid-January, I believe, or end of January. And of course, he lost. There was no way anyone's beating Bobby Lashley anytime soon. So we expected, when he came out, I guess we expected a loss or some kind of him not necessarily winning the championship at least. And then, of course, this week or just last night, on Monday Night Raw, he faced Karrion Kross. Now, this is a bit of a tale of two weirdly booked guys right now. Of course, there was big talk on the interwebs within the internet wrestling community on Karrion Kross's booking. Karrion Kross being the NXT champion, making his debut on Raw and losing to Jeff Hardy, what, two minutes, was it? 2 minutes.
Yeah, 90 seconds or so, yeah.
I mean, on paper, Jeff Hardy, of course, a former champion, a well-known guy, a future Hall of Famer. It doesn't sound so bad when you put it like that. But Jeff Hardy right now, ain't no one giving him a world championship anytime soon. He's not necessarily been in the best condition over the last 5 years. He's not that convincing anymore. He's been away. He was away for a few months, at least weeks as well. And that was his little return as well. But he beat Karrion Kross, albeit by him kind of cheating a little, using the ropes as leverage and blah, blah, blah. But, it sent the fans in a bit of a madness and kind of confirmed, that Vince has, once again, I think, he built it up a little, but once again has pushed down NXT as this developmental brand and not the third brand, as we would like to see, as Triple H has said it has been for the last few years. But then Karrion Kross defeats Keith Lee. He was supposed to win, though, like, really, because if Keith Lee wins, it's more losses for Karrion Kross. Now, I don't know if this happened or not. If it did, it must have been right at the start before the match started. But they also didn't necessarily mention the fact that it was Karrion Kross that beat Keith Lee for the NXT Championship.
I think on commentary, they may have made reference to these two having a match in NXT in the past, or something very loose like that. They did mention something, but like you said, this was the main event of a takeover last year.
Right, of course. And of course, at the time, Keith Lee was a double champion in NXT, both NXT Championship and the North American Championship. So that's big business. So for them to then clash on Raw, an unannounced match, a match that wasn't even built up before the match started, let alone at the start of the evening.
Yeah.
I think it further confirms Vince's view of NXT, for one. And yeah, Kross won in a very convincing way. But then we're now asking the questions as to what's happening with Keith Lee. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? I think mine might be a little bit different to yours, if I'm honest. You know, we'll see.
I really don't know what to think. Like, you've brought him back, cool. That's what fans wanted, fine. But with 2 losses, it's just like, it's like he's almost like your new Big Show, someone that's physically imposing. Like, and I mean, with all due respect, that's not how I see him. But it's, I mean, in WWE's eyes, it's like someone that's physically imposing. It's like, oh, like, how's the opponent gonna beat this guy? But then they always find a way to beat them anyway. And that's not who Keith Lee was on the Indies, in NXT, even with the little initial run he had last year on Raw.
Yeah,
like.
That's true.
You put him in a pay-per-view like 2 months into his Raw tenure, and he beat Randy Orton, bona fide Hall of Famer. Like, what happened? Why don't you rate him anymore? Like, it makes no sense. And then, of course, you know, going a bit deeper into the cryptic messages that, you know, we're seeing on Twitter and all of that kind of stuff from Keith Lee, like, all is going to be explained very soon, and you know, I'll let you guys know where my headspace is at, and I want this to be a storyline.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Like, I'm really deep down hoping this isn't anything serious, or you know, there's been rumors that, you know, WWE wanted to license his name, and he's refused. And I'm hoping this hasn't kind of landed him in bad graces. Apparently, some outlets have said no, that's not the case.
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah,
you don't it's bad. It may differ on the scale of badness, but at the same time, in WWE, bad is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I say the scale, the only thing that changes, I guess, is time more than, you know, them rating how bad you not going through a decision is.
Yeah.
Maybe over time it'll be okay. It may take a few months, possibly a year. Who knows? But the second you say no to any kind of decision, especially something, mate, that's big.
It's legal.
Holding on to,
you
know, your own money or finances, whatever, or, you know, or the potential of them making money on your name.
Yeah.
That's bad. Obviously, we know WWE is all about money. So that must have some kind of bearing. But I'm very intrigued to see what this message is. I don't think it's going to be something that is, you know, damning or whatever else. Like, say, for example, when John Moxley left, you know, WWE, and he then had 20 million things to say about WWE. When, you know, all these different people that have left, Aleister Black most recently, Rusev in the past, you know, left, and then damn WWE for all these different things. It's not going to be anything to that scale because he's still there.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that. He's still there. There's a strong possibility it's something storyline, but playing with truth. But personally, I just think it's just going to be him telling us what happened in his time he was off. Part of it was injury, we know that, but we know that it wasn't the full 6 months wasn't injury.
Yeah, the whole stint.
We know that there was something personal in it. I remember at a time where I was reading, I didn't necessarily get any kind of interaction with her myself, but I was reading different interactions with Keith Lee's girlfriend, Mia Yim, saying, stop speculating, leave us alone, personal. That's how you know it's not the injury thing. It's past the injury and it's now some kind of personal issue. So I just see it as something like that. There's, like I said, one of two things. Either just him kind of telling us what actually happened with him, probably, something mental, some family issue, something like that, or he's going to talk about something and he's going to play into a storyline, a heel turn, him going to SmackDown. Who knows? In terms of going back to his losses, in terms of the losses, I don't necessarily see it as negative. Or I'm not quick to now sit here and think that he's in the same boat as a Cedric Alexander or Ricochet, for example.
Yeah.
He's not going to end up on main event next week. Let's hope. That will tell you everything. But let's hope. Because Ricochet went from Money in the Bank to main event is possible.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see it like that. It's unfortunate that he's been the fall guy in 2 weeks in a row, especially after a return. It's not always the best way, or the expected way for things to be for someone, as you said, who has beaten Randy Orton when he first came, was going toe to toe with the then WWE champion Drew McIntyre and almost beat him. We were seeing this build up of a new star and expected him to be, something special. Now we're just seeing another big guy that's just there. But I don't think it's one of those situations where Vince has no hope in him anymore. I think he's just coasting, unfortunately, which is bad in itself, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not the end of his, career, as so to speak. It could possibly be a very similar situation to Bobby Lashley in the sense where Lashley came back, was doing foolishness for about 2 years, little blips of hope, every now and again, but didn't really amount to anything. And then, of course, now we're seeing, a bona fide WWE champion. I think it's something very similar. They just don't know what to do with him right now, but it's not, I couldn't care less about this guy. Let's just feed him to the dogs and be done with him.
Yeah, maybe even when he does decide to come out and say whatever's been troubling him, it can work almost like a catalyst, like the whole Drake Maverick thing did when he got released from
WWE.
They still may not have plans for him, but if he comes out and says his story and the fans online take to it, maybe it could be something they then incorporate into storyline and have something to run with. Just going over to the chat, Jonesy Chats Wrestling. What's up, bro? He said, welcome back.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes.
Good to be back. NK says, Keith Lee on the main roster looks spooky. Jonesy Chats Wrestling again. Keith Lee has been treated like a total jobber. He's no different to Mace.
Whoa.
And he says, in terms of how he's being booked, facts.
I mean, it's losses, isn't it? No wins, nothing special. Mace is more on the same thing. Yeah, it's no different. Possibly worse. It's two losses in a row.
The problem is, it's our knowledge of NXT.
Right.
That is the issue. And the more and more I'm just kind of telling people, because I've now had to swallow this pill, it's like NXT is not a continuation onto the main roster. It might as well be a whole different company. Don't even think of NXT as WWE.
Basically.
Yeah, because they come up to main roster, they may not even be the same character. They may not, still be. They might have been a heel in NXT. All of a sudden, they're a face. Their finishes may change. Their names will probably change. Their appearance and their entrance and everything like that. Just think of it as two completely different entities, and it will make you sleep well at night. Because otherwise, you're gonna drive yourself crazy looking for continuity.
But at the same time, it doesn't, because you're thinking, why is it not?
Yeah, it
You understand? It's like, why isn't it? I don't understand why it isn't. I don't understand why there is this separation. What is the point in NXT if there is a separation? So even if you saw them as completely two different companies,
yeah,
kind of how FCW was back in the day, Florida Championship Wrestling, when that was the development before NXT. If you did follow FCW, you were still hoping for a very similar thing. I know there were very few of us that did follow it, but if you did, you were hoping for a similar thing. But now that we've established this brand as an established development brand,
yeah,
that's on TV, that has great pay-per-views, amazing matches, better matches than the main roster. No one will tell me any different. Why are we not getting some level of continuation apart from the face of the person that we see? Then again, not even that, because Keith Lee's got no beard anymore. I was looking at him and I'm like, bro, you need to get that face back.
I mean, it's pretty much what you've just said. I think I feel like you said earlier, Triple H sees NXT as a third brand, as a competing brand with Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, and that's what it's been built up to have. They've got some of the, at least at one point anyway, they had the best talent on the indies a matter of years ago, all in NXT, and then Vince or whomsoever at the top in WWE sees NXT as developmental. So it's like, yeah, maybe we can bring up these guys because we need to fill spots on the main roster, but they're not gonna win world championships and stuff like they did in NXT. Like, why would they? So
go to NK's comment in the chat. Go to NK's comment in the chat.
NK's just said, why should I look at NXT as a third brand when they don't even continue basic storylines or characters? What was the point of them winning Survivor Series? To cock block AEW. And we all know it now. It's clear as day.
Basically, I mean, it's a shame because, I've also read that obviously, Vince was possibly a little upset that they didn't win
the wars.
Made up Wednesday Night War thing. I don't know why either of them were even competing, because for me, with the way AEW came about and the big talk, it was like they really should have tried to compete with Raw or SmackDown. Not NXT. For me, that was the thing. But it's the same old thing though with Vince McMahon or the higher ups. If it's not Vince McMahon himself, it's at least the higher ups within WWE that will run with something when it's hot. The second it starts to deplete, they literally just get rid of it altogether.
Drop it.
Women's division, women's tag team, 205, now NXT. It's the same thing over and over again. So instead of trying to build it back up, they just drop it completely. Can't bother anymore. And that's the problem. That's the problem. But this is where we're at. As you said, the best thing to do is try and block out of your system that this is a third brand. It has to be seen as a completely different place. And we already know for years, even when NXT was at its height, I guess, even in the eyes of Vince, even at its height, no one was kind of making that successful transition from NXT to the main roster and going on to win big things. If they have been, it's been one or two.
The women have the best success rate.
Yes, they have. They have actually. Yeah, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Charlotte. But I think for me, some of these that were earlier on, because I was going to mention Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, they came from NXT, but NXT wasn't established then.
Yeah.
it was kind of just came about, but those were not established NXT stars. Put it that way. The like Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Shinsuke, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, Andrade, Aleister Black. Those are the guys that we wanted to see become big stars on the main roster after being big stars on NXT or establish themselves in NXT as they did previously on the Indies. So,
and if we're being honest, it's only Kevin Owens out of all those names you mentioned to have really, stuck his foot in, and he went on to become Universal Champion, US Champion, Intercontinental Champion, all of that kind of stuff. Kind of floundering, nowadays. Still finds himself in good positions every now and again. Like he obviously had a good program at the end of the last year with Roman, but they tried to strap the rocket to Finn once he came in. He got injured, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Everyone else, it's just fell flat.
I believe they lost hope or gave up after that Finn incident. I don't know if it was necessarily because of that incident, but it definitely, he was the last person to really have that great. Or did Kevin Owens come after Finn?
No, Kevin Owens was first. He was first.
Kevin Owens came first. But yeah, after Finn, no one else really. Shinsuke kind of did the Royal Rumble thing, but that kind of just went to nothing. Even by the time we got to WrestleMania, it was kind of almost pointless.
But you can tell, like, Shinsuke came in, and it's like the whole crowd sings along to the theme. And it's like, okay, we've got something here. It's very much same with the Glorious with Bobby Roode. That's all he was. He was a theme song. Like, something that can do well in front of the live crowds, but actually give these people a story and something to them, to really indulge into. And it's like, maybe. It's like,
yeah. We just need to stop hoping for too much from NXT stars. And to be fair, a lot of them have given up themselves because guys like Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Ciampa, they said no to go into the main roster.
I can't remember who I was thinking. I was watching someone the other day, like maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, on like an NXT promotion onto the main roster, blah blah blah. And I was literally watching them, and I was thinking, now I can see as clear as day why Ciampa said, if you move me to main roster, I'm retiring. It is as clear as day, because it's a burial ultimately for your career, or whatever your hopes of your career are. It's
the list is long. The list is long. Aleister Black, Andrade, Ricochet. You can kind of argue Finn, but as you said, Finn got injured, so there's not really much you can go with on that one. But there's been so many others. And slightly Cesaro as well. Samoa Joe, again, injury kind of derailed him a little, but there's loads. The list is long, and I think NXT had a little blip in terms of how good it was and all that kind of stuff, but it's now gaining back something. I honestly think, and I think we've said this before, and I definitely said this last week when I was talking to Gerard Bonner, that Karrion Kross is too big for NXT, as in size wise, is just too big for NXT. So the main roster is better for him, to be honest. But as soon as he's gone, it feels like a bit more of an even playing field, and then you'll have Adam Cole and Pete Dunne, and Johnny Gargano will make it a little bit more believable that they can be champions again, because Karrion Kross ain't no one beating him.
100%. But even at the same time, I we look at, and we've all kind of salivated thinking, they're gonna absolutely love Karrion Kross on the main roster. And how he's been brought in, obviously, like you just said at the top of the show, kind of, losing his first match, stripped of the whole entrance. The entrance is everything. And it's
no Scarlet, right?
Not even smoke, bro. Like, smoke don't cost nothing. Pyro is one thing, fair enough. There's financial implications. Not even smoke machine. Like, what is going on? Like, that is, why did you bring this guy up? And this is the same thing I ask when I see them kind of wasting Keith Lee. What did you see in him that you wanted him here that you don't see in him anymore? Like, it doesn't make it. You've brought up the NXT champion with his belt, and he's losing. Like, anyhow, like.
But it then also begs the question. It also then begs the question: when we see people get brought up, do they have to get shot straight to the top straight away?
No, but you would like to see some type of, storyline evolving.
Okay.
That's not the
Right.
case. Like, the typical crisis of confidence. If Keith Lee came up or Karrion Kross came up and it's like he loses. Like if he lost to Keith Lee this week and then next week he maybe goes on to lose again, and it's like, oh, can I actually hang here on the main roster? Story. You see what I mean? Just something like. But I always personally believed, and this is how they used to do it in the Attitude Era, they would kind of debut someone straight into the main event. So you're taken seriously from the jump. And then obviously as your story kind of comes to an end and how fans perceive you, you may then fall down the card into, a more natural position if you are to fall down the card.
Right.
Starting someone from the top always is going to give them that chance to kind of, all right, we're really trusting this person. We're really going to give them a go. But yeah, when you just start someone or return someone to a loss, it's like Jeff Hardy hasn't even been on TV. He didn't lose to Drew McIntyre or someone. You see what I mean? Like,
it's a madness. It's a madness. It's always tough to see someone lose. And as much as Jeff Hardy won by cheating, still kind of didn't make sense for an a dominant NXT champion. Not just an NXT champion that's been champion for like 2 weeks or something, but a dominant NXT champion. To lose in his first match on Raw was kind of a bit too much. And I had a feeling it was going to be, he loses and then next week he'll probably demolish Jeff Hardy, but we'll never know because now Jeff Hardy's got COVID. So he's out for a little while.
NK has just said here, Kevin Owens is the perfect example of how to do an NXT call-up.
Yeah.
Came onto the show.
I don't believe no one will ever do it like that. And for me, that was the absolute perfect thing to do. But at the same time, because you can't do it again. Can't.
Bro, there's ways though. That like even with look at Finn Balor. Finn Balor recently on SmackDown, he stepped to Roman, right? Now, whether they're gonna use this in story or not, I don't know. But when they were building up when they were building up Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross for the NXT title, where Karrion Kross won, they had Paul Heyman in a skit on a vignette on NXT talking about, the tribal chief is watching this match. I'm watching this match, and Paul Heyman giving his opinion. So all of a sudden, if they wish to use it, it makes sense. Finn Balor coming after Roman Reigns. You see what I mean? These are just little things you can do to web. They have the cameras. They have a whole performance center. They've got studios. They've got editors. This isn't hard. Like, just weave little
transition. Make the transition make sense. Have a little bit of continuity. The wrestler doesn't have to be shot straight to the top, but just give us some continuity and make sense of it. To have Karrion Kross come out the way he does, very little excitement to it. Very little. I'm actually surprised he even walks out with the NXT Championship in his hand. If I'm completely honest, it's crazy. It's crazy. But sticking with NXT, but going literally straight to NXT, we saw a debut of Odyssey Jones. Yes. Odyssey Jones in the breakout tournament. In the first round, he won his first match, I think, against Andre Chase. Odyssey Jones is 6'5". I think he's over 400 pounds. He's a very big guy, very agile for his size as well. Very agile.
Can I just say?
Go for it.
So, obviously, a lot of these guys from the breakout tournament have been in and around 205 Live and stuff like that.
Yes.
The week before Odyssey Jones match last week on NXT, this guy was on 205 Live.
Odyssey Jones.
Odyssey Jones.
Odyssey Jones, bro.
A whole 300 pounder was on 205 Live.
205 times 2, 410 pounds was on 205 Live.
I said NXT. I mean, WWE have given up. They don't care anymore. No, they probably think no one watches this.
I didn't.
He had a whole match Yeah.
Wow.
On 205 Live. A nearly 400-pound man.
Wow. I say to just get rid of 205 or hurry up and turn it into this second NXT show, which I don't even know if that's even going to happen anymore.
Yeah, they haven't
spoken
spoken about that for a while.
Ages ago. That was talked about in what, March?
Yeah.
And I think a pilot was filmed in that month as well. Nothing yet. That kind of tells me nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, probably.
But we'll see. And especially now Vince is on this whole, I don't care about NXT. Triple H has to find the money in his back pocket or something. Or
literally.
Beg Steph to talk to today. I don't know. But going back to Odyssey Jones. So Odyssey Jones came out, this big guy, very agile. It's a little damning on him for him to come out basically wearing Mark Henry's Nation of Domination attire, because that's what we saw on Twitter after that. Was that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Is it paying homage? Is it lazy? What's going on?
I think he's good, but I think he obviously got some way to go. I've kind of plotted who I think is going to be the winner of this tournament. It's not him, but I think he's okay.
Let's just say if it's not Carmelo Hayes, it's an absolute travesty. But anyway,
I don't think it's Carmelo Hayes. I think it's I forget his name now, but he had the first round match. The guy that used to be called Brendan Vink.
Oh, that's not a bad shout. That's not a bad shout.
I think he's winning it.
That's not a bad shout at all, actually.
Yeah,
I still think Carmelo Hayes should.
Carmelo Hayes is the most talented there,
especially what he's done so far. You know what I mean? In terms of coming out to Adam Cole and Cheetah and stuff. But Brendan Vink or whatever his name is now. That's not a bad shout at all, actually.
But yeah, Odyssey Jones, I think, depending how fast his trajectory of learning and stuff like that is, obviously with what's his face that looks like he's departing, the colossal guy, the Australian brother.
We have Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed looks like he's on his way out.
Yeah.
That could be a nice little, hole to kind of fit into, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
As for his look, packaging and stuff, I guess it's just still early days. If they can work on that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it was a decent debut. There was one kind of scary looking botch.
There was.
Where that guy dived out the ring and he didn't quite catch it. Yeah. But other than that, I thought he looked pretty good in his first outing.
He looked decent. I found it a little weird that on commentary they said it would be an upset if Andre Chase was to win. Based on Andre Chase being way more experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, of course, Odyssey is as big as he is, but he's as inexperienced as he is as well at the same time. So I just found that a little weird. But apart from that, I mean, it was a good first match. I'm sure it was his debut match, his first showing on TV. And he's been at NXT in the Performance Center for at least 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. Yeah, so he's done well. He's not had any previous wrestling experience as far as I know. He's come from, I think he's another ex-American football. Yeah. He's had, if any at all, very, very little wrestling experience before getting his developmental contracts with the Performance Center NXT. So he's done well. We'll see what happens from here. I don't necessarily see him going further than the next round, but I think hopefully we'll see a bit more of him for a little while and see how that plays out. We'll keep it with NXT, but go to a success story from NXT, who is Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair turned up at the Rolling Loud concert, if you want to call it a concert, festival, event. I don't know what these things are anymore.
Festival, I guess it is.
I'm an old guy. I don't know what these things are anymore. I was looking at the lineup of the festival itself. So for others that are also old like me, and are not necessarily rap fans either, Sorry. You know, I was having a look at the lineup of who was on this bill, and when I first saw Rolling Loud, I thought it was gonna be some rock thing or whatever.
That's what I've never heard of this festival.
You know, you're showing wrestling at this thing. It must be some rock guys because they like wrestling, but it's all rappers, and I'm like, huh?
Hip hop festival, yeah.
Yeah, man. So Post Malone, Travis Scott, ASAP Rocky, or as Michael Cole called him, ASAP Rocky. Listen, if Michael Cole didn't do that, I probably would have done it. So I won't say nothing. Savage. These are just names I actually know.
T-Pain was there, wasn't he?
T-Pain. I know T-Pain. Tiger, Rick Ross, Megan Thee Stallion, Kodak Black, Wale. Of course, we know Wale very well. Young Thug. I'm not saying no more names because I don't know any of the rest, but just all these names. Just all these names. And for me, you know what? When I realized what this Rolling Loud actually is, I'm like, what is WWE actually trying to do here? Is this a sign of something, or is it a one-off? And even if it's a one-off, it's a nice one-off, I guess. But are they now trying to appeal a little bit more to us? Because it was Bianca Belair as well as the Street Profits who came and they had a match as well. Angelo Dawkins won his match. It was a return to TV for Montez Ford, of course. They both came out with Wale with their entrance as well, which has happened before on NXT, I believe. Or was it their first time on Raw? One of them. And yeah, I don't know if the crowd was really with it. Nah. But props to WWE for the effort.
Yeah,
I guess. How did you see it, and how did you see the matches themselves as well? Actually,
so in a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, Triple H has said, obviously WWE need to find new ways to reach new audiences.
right?
So obviously this was already booked anyway. I thought this would just be, you know, like we see in the Rock-esque concerts when they do this kind of stuff with takeovers and stuff in the past. I thought this would be a ring set up in a separate tent where, you know, anyone that wants to go watch it can go and watch it.
We'll get to
They put this on the main stage, like, which was massive props, to be honest. I saw it was raining at the time when the matches were going on as well. I was thinking, God, I hope no one slips on the stage or whatever the case is. And they had obviously about 200 to 300,000 people in the crowd. So that's going to be probably the largest live crowd them lot ever perform in front of. So well done to them for kind of being selected, the chosen ones to have that experience. But
hopefully that whole 200 to 300 people get COVID tested after they come out, because
trust.
Anyway,
trust. But it completely seemed to fall flat. It was very obvious that they were pumping in crowd noises. They kept doing live shots of the crowd as if the crowd were at least bubbling or like there was none of that. Like, so why are you showing us the crowd? Like, you're actually exposing the fact you're pumping in noise here. Yeah, like you referenced that maybe that they are catering maybe a bit more to us with having it at a hip hop festival. Maybe that was the intention, although from the wide shots and the crowd shots that I saw were predominantly white people and stuff like that. But it's a festival in America where white people are still the majority, so I wouldn't really expect any different. The matches were good. You know, everyone just did what they needed to do to kind of, you know, quick kind of 7-8 minute matches. My only thing is that would this have benefited more of maybe more household names? Did they send out Street Profits and Bianca Belair because they're black at a hip hop concert?
Yes.
Like, with obviously the likes of John Cena being available, like John Cena versus I don't know, more of a household name. I'm trying to think of one on the roster. Maybe Rey Mysterio could have maybe got the crowds more involved. You see what I mean? but maybe, like you say, that wasn't actually their intention. Their intention is to kind of grow within new markets and a new demographic of market. So it was a good try. It was a good attempt. You like to see them trying different things at least. It just seemed that it fell a bit flat. I wonder if they have a way of kind of measuring how many of those 200,000, 300,000 people in the crowd, will tune into SmackDown this week or whatever. Like it's this is one of them things. You can't really measure it, but I guess we'll see.
As you said, I guess with that being said, it's blind marketing at the end of the day, and it's them trying to get back out to some level of live crowd and see what happens, and that type of thing. So to see that happen at a hip hop festival, sorry if I called it rap. If it's hip hop, I'm old, man. Leave me alone. But yeah. It was a good thing. I mean, to be honest, I didn't realize that what the festival was, but I also saw a post on WWE Instagram page with Bianca Belair versus Carmella for the WWE the SmackDown Women's Championship. And I went in, bro. I was like, why are we doing this again? Carmella lost clean last week, and this, and blah, 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 lazy booking, rah, rah, rah. Then I realized what Rolling Loud was. I went back on that page, bro, and deleted my comment because I'm like, you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah.
You need to do something. There was very few of those people that had seen Carmella and Bianca last week. Probably don't even know who either of them are. But at the same time, to see a black woman with the championship, to then see two very charismatic black men come out and win their match, come out with someone that they know in Wale, it's a good effort, bro. Yeah. I have to commend them on it, hoping that it's something that's going to continue in some way. There's going to be some level of follow-up, some type of continuation in terms of reaching out to new audiences and those types of fans and us very specifically. And if that is done with Bianca Belair and the Street Profits, I can't think of a better trio. To be honest, that represents both the men and the women. It was a very, very good shout, to be fair.
And that's the one thing I wanted to add. I think at least, the Street Profits haven't been doing anything as of real importance as of late, but they're obviously still at the fingertips of things. But Bianca Belair, it kind of shows the kind of stock they have in her right now is pretty high. Especially when you see what the likes of Rhea Ripley and what's happening to her over on Raw. Rhea Ripley's just kind of lost in the shuffle. She's already lost her championship, which she won on the same weekend as Bianca Belair. So yeah, they clearly care and see this kind of almost like an ambassador kind of role for Bianca Belair at the exact same time as still being a SmackDown superstar, SmackDown Women's Champion. So long may it continue. Arpit just says here in the chat, thanks for joining us, Arpit. Just Cena versus Edge in a friendly match or whatever. They could have done something like that or had them cut a promo. So yeah, this is when we were talking about having big names to really kind of set the crowd alight. But maybe that wasn't quite what they were going for.
I think the little campaign was very specific. Bianca and the Street Profits were chosen very specifically because they're black, and it's possible Wale had some level of say. He's got that little bit of influence, of course, and and whatnot. So. It makes sense. It makes sense. Like I said, it's good to see. Moving away from the WWE, going across the pond. Well, not necessarily quite across the pond, not quite, but just down the road, I guess. To Impact. I broke the news last week. It was a bit of a spoiler, but we're now seeing the cogs turning. We've seen it on Thursday last week. That Chris Bay, we already know that he is already part of the Bullet Club, but the storyline is playing out on TV now that he's been offered a place on the famous Bullet Club by the leader Jay White. We saw him save Jay White from being beaten up by the Good Brothers, and I guess that's him saying yes. He hasn't picked up the Bullet Club shirt or put it on yet, and all the rest of it. That's going to play out in a different way in the next couple of weeks. But I remember we had one of the guys from the Black Wrestling podcast when he was talking about the Black Wrestling 50, and Chris Bay was, I think he was in the top 5 on their list, and we were also talking about the whole thing with Moose and Kenny Omega, and there's a very interesting thing that our guy, I believe it was Cal that we were talking to, and we were like, okay, right, surely Moose is the guy that's going to beat Kenny Omega. At the time, I think we realized it's not going to happen. Sami Callihan was kind of in the mix already. And he said, I think it's going to be Chris Bay. When he said that, bro, I was like, I mean, I love Chris Bay.
Yeah.
We know that. But Chris Bay to beat Kenny? Now, bro, I'm not going to lie. A part of me feels there's a possibility. A part of me feels there's a possibility, and I know you're looking at me like perplexed as well. Feels there is a possibility. There's going to be this scrap or whatever else with Kenny Omega and Jay White. Kenny's going to win somehow, and it's going to be Chris Bay left on Impact with that Bullet Club shirt, and he's going to be like, I'm next. Then what?
I mean, sounds good. What I see this as is a setting up a more or less a dream match. I do feel like Chris Bay will probably go after Kenny Omega. Probably might be unsuccessful, but we get the match where, you know, a lot of people, when the Kenny Omega coming through the Forbidden Door thing happened, you know, people would have said Omega versus Chris Bay is a match I want to see. So yeah, by hook or by crook, we're probably going to get it within this storyline, which would be great. If there's anyone, you know, just looking at the outset of the story, who's going to take the belt off him, it may be Jay White himself.
You think?
I maybe this is bias. I love Jay White.
Okay,
but like, it makes sense. They need someone. It has to be someone high level, like.
But to still be someone who is not a part of Impact, for me, is not the best choice. So while Jay White, in terms of stature, is a good choice, in terms of, you know, numbers and eyes on the show, blah, blah, brilliant. In terms of, I don't know how you say this, but, you know, in terms of it not being an Impact star to bring back the Impact Championship, it's like, so why are your Impact? Why do you have these people on your roster?
You're correct. And to a degree, Kenny Omega has more or less rubbished, and I'll use that word, they've rubbished the whole Impact roster already. Now, people are putting it in the chat right now, and I'm happy. It has to be this man. If it's not Josh Alexander, then
that's a strong shout.
Yeah, he's the strongest shout. And I think Josh Alexander on the past show, he had a little run-in with Kenny Omega while he was doing an interview or something like that. Kenny Omega kind of disturbed the interview he was having. So maybe the cogs are beginning to turn in that direction as well. Arpit says Josh Alexander might take the belt. I'd love that to happen. Rashad Lee, I think he'll be Josh Alexander and option C.
And option C. Ooh.
So yeah, I think
Rashad has just done it for me.
Josh Alexander for me is, like you're saying, if it's going to be an Impact star, it has to be him. However, Switchblade Jay White just being another big name that is happy to kind of, because he's a good guy right now, you know, do the bidding for Impact, bring the belt home. That could work also. But just going back to Chris Bay, I just think the whole Bullet Club move, and Bullet Club, yes, admittedly, aren't as big as they once were.
No.
Bullet Club is Bullet Club. The name is synonymous in wrestling circles. This is a fantastic move. It's a well-deserved move. And this is what will help move his name to more mainstream rather than just indie star Chris Bay.
right? And not even indie star on the West Coast, because Bay didn't necessarily do much apart from on the West Coast. He did a lot, but it was all West Coast.
Yeah.
You know, LA, Nevada, you know, that area of the US. So for him to now be a part of the Bullet Club, be in the same conversation, be part of that history. You go into Wikipedia. I mean, I don't know if this has happened yet, but you know, type in Bullet Club members. Chris Bay is going to be on there. That's crazy, bro. Yeah, Kenny Omega, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Chris Bay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
they got to treat him. They got to treat him like that, though. I don't want this just to be some American version, and we just see him turn up on New Japan Strong in LA. He has to go to Japan for the Super Juniors tournaments and all of that kind of stuff. He has to be seen alongside Jay White. So it's yes, this is like my hired gun almost. Like this is my guy sort of thing, with Jay White being the leader. Like you have to package it to make it feel big, not just Bullet Club in name.
Another guy, right? And there have been quite a few of those types of guys where we know them for being in Bullet Club, but at the same time we don't know them on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They're just there. What's Arpit said in the chat? I see you smiling, bro.
Jay White is probably going back to New Japan for G1 late August, so I don't think he will take the belt.
And that's the thing I was going to say as well. He's not going to be there long term. He's not going to be there long term. So that's another reason why I feel as though there's the possibility now in my head. There wasn't before at all, but the possibility of Chris Bay, at least, as you said, at least challenging Kenny Omega for the championship.
Jay White does live in America, though, guys.
Okay.
He lives in America. He just goes to Japan, films, and comes back. So
interesting. And he is making, I saw just before we came on the show, actually, he's making a debut on an indie show, Warrior Wrestling.
Warrior Wrestling.
Yeah, Warrior Wrestling. Trey Miguel is actually their champion.
Yeah.
Warrior Wrestling. Yeah. Trey Miguel. Yeah, we forget about Trey Miguel, but
he's been champion for a minute there. Then
he's been a champion there for a bit. And even a few AEW stars turn up there as well. Brian Cage. I think the Varsity Blondes are going to be on the next show, something like that. There's quite a few. So yeah, Jay White will be about for a minute over the summer. At least we'll be seeing Jay White in America quite often. But if he's going back to Japan in August, who knows whether that will, have any kind of, have any kind of standing on his schedule with Impact and stuff like that. I mean, they've done the tapings. I don't know what the plan is for the next set of tapings, what the ending of those tapings were for Jay White himself. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's interesting, but my eyes are firmly fixed on what happens with Chris Bay. I don't want to get too excited. This is wrestling. I don't want to get too excited. But I guess the possibility is now in my head that we're going to get Kenny, Chris Bay at some point for that championship. Whether he wins, I'm not seeing him necessarily win it yet. Yeah, but
we're going to get a tantalizing match.
The whole Josh Alexander thing's been put out there as well. Yeah, if it's not going to be Moose, he obviously wasn't Sami Callihan. I don't want it to be Eddie Edwards in no way, shape, or form.
Oh, no. Forget that.
Please no. Obviously, Rich Swann couldn't do it. I don't think he'll be back up there for now. Maybe Josh Alexander is the only person left to realistically beat Kenny Omega for that championship, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. We've got a few minutes, and we haven't done this for a few weeks, actually.
Yes.
But we're going to go to our stars of the week. Oh, my word. I'll let you go first. Seeing as you're back, seeing as you've been out for a while and you've been eagerly awaiting to get back into this, I'll let you go first.
Right. So mine might be a bit of a basic pick, but I'm going to go with Bobby Lashley. I feel like the the switching character almost, or should I say not switching character, just getting more serious with it.
Going back to
Exactly.
Mm.
It's kind of given the championship reign a new lease of life. Obviously, Goldberg is looking like his SummerSlam opponent. He said that no, I'm not facing Goldberg. I don't fancy it. But you know, Cedric and Shelton came out on Raw. It looked like something was up. Hurt Business Boys getting back together. No, not quite. He stacked them. He pinned them just like Roman at WrestleMania. Just looks very dominant. You know, although he doesn't feel like the top guy on Raw. It still very much feels like Drew or maybe someone else. Like he is doing great work. He has done great work as champion. I would like to imagine it's going to continue post Goldberg, post SummerSlam. And then we get into the autumn and see, you know, if we get a draft, if we see the likes of Big E come over and you know, really someone new, someone that credibly could be credible and challenge him. But just for his consistent level of performance, Bobby Lashley for me.
Here's a quick question. Here's a quick question before I forget it. As you said, you know, Bobby Lashley doesn't feel like he's the top guy. Doesn't feel like he's the top guy. As dominant as he's been as a champion, as much as he's beaten Drew McIntyre at every stage that he's needed to, done it at Mania, Hell in a Cell, defeated Kofi Kingston, former champion, and he's gonna take on Goldberg. If he beats Goldberg, I don't think it necessarily does much more for his, you know, for his run, his reign. I don't think it does anything too much, to be honest. But who would Bobby Lashley need to beat in order to take it there?
We know the name.
I feel as though all of those people are on SmackDown.
Yeah. Ultimately, yeah. Everyone, if we're talking about active superstars, they probably are on SmackDown. If we get up to Survivor Series with Bobby as champion, Bobby versus Roman will be very, very interesting. That will be very, very, very interesting.
Wow.
I mean, I think there's going to be one winner, but it's something that will be interesting. But it's Lesnar. It's Lesnar. Lesnar is the guy that ultimately will legitimize Lashley's run and will be like, man, you guys remember Lashley's run and stuff like that. But it just doesn't look like Lesnar's coming back anytime soon.
No. And obviously we know that it was supposed to be, they were trying to make it Lesnar at SummerSlam contract talk dissolved eventually. I legit think Lesnar didn't want to lose to Lashley. It's as simple as that. I literally think it's as simple as that because Lesnar's never wanted to face Lashley. Like it's quite known. He's never wanted to face Lashley. Didn't care in the same way we do. Didn't care in the same way Lashley does.
And even from a character standpoint, why would he want to come back and lose? The last time we saw Lesnar, he lost. I mean, I get it to an extent because if he comes back just to lose, he becomes Goldberg.
Very true. Very, very true.
Then the whole mystique of him goes. So I do get it to a degree.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. Let me throw mine in real quick before we finish. And I definitely would have mentioned this guy and chosen this guy if we did Stars of the Week last week. My guy has to be Omos, however you say Omos.
He's working.
That guy is just on point right now. Even from his showing just yesterday on Raw, he is just on point. I remember, I think you mentioned this in the chat last week when I was talking with Gerard, and you mentioned something about the way he looked at AJ Styles after they lost last week. I kind of saw a glimpse of that, definitely not as blatant. Saw a glimpse of that just before he tagged AJ Styles for them to win that match yesterday. He had the match won. He had it won, and he looked as if he was ready to pin Eric, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he's then looked at AJ Styles and looked back and then tagged AJ Styles in, and then AJ Styles done his thing and pinned and won the match. But yeah, I think we're slowly kind of seeing something. Again, as I said last week, I don't want it to be over in the next month or so or a few weeks. I want it to kind of take time. Whether they stay as champions or not isn't necessarily here or there for me. It helps. It will help.
Yeah.
But I think they will have to lose for then, you know, the fall of the friendship at least to happen. But in saying all of that, I mean, I think Omos has had 5 or 6 matches, and he's won most of them. I think he's only lost 2, and those are both tag team or
he hasn't been pinned.
They're like 6-man tag matches. That is obviously not been pinned. So he's on a good run. He's showing some great skills. It's not the slow big man thing.
Yeah,
he's kind of got a bit of speed to him, a little agility we've seen, but I'm just loving how Omos is at the moment. And by the words of Omos, almost every 2 seconds while he's in the ring, "This is my house." He says it so much.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably on the verge tonight of putting out a video saying that I want AJ Styles to break free from Omos. Nothing against Omos. I just want to see AJ Styles back doing his thing.
Right, exactly the same.
And I don't know if you've seen a lot in the last week. Omos has been getting a lot of stick online in terms of his in-ring ability, this, that, and the other. But I'm not seeing.
Wow, I don't understand why.
Yeah,
because he's not doing somersaults or I mean, like
big man stuff.
But he's still doing big man stuff better than like you expect a big man to do.
I'm seeing people saying obviously they want to re-enter contract talks with Braun Strowman, and that is the end of Omos if Strowman comes back. So we will see, but I don't think it's that bad.
Nah, not at all. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I don't agree with anything that anyone's saying bad about Omos right now. I don't think you can. Plus, he's fresh as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Consideration as well. But even with that, he's doing great things. On that note, we have finished. We have gone over our time. But guys, thank you. This is WrstlXtra. You are watching live right now on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel and listening on AffinityExtra.com. Folks, thanks for joining us. Follow Mex. Mex is back. On Instagram at WrestleManiac.uk and Twitter at WrestleManiac UK. Check out his new videos talking about Raw, what happened last night, and of course he'll be back doing that every single day. And of course on his show with Kings of Wrestling and the Elite
Maniac podcast.
The Elite Maniac podcast. See, I do know it kind of. And of course, you can follow me on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, folks. Thank you for joining us, and we are out.
See you later, guys.